Okay, sorry. The largest impact in grade improvements was for Pell recipients and non-white students. From Colvard's study, we can see that OER is beneficial for increasing equity, which our keynote talked a bit about. OER is beneficial for diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in other ways, in addition to saving money and improving grades. According to Hayes and Mellon, one of the ways in which OER helps to create a more inclusive environment in higher ed is by allowing for more diverse voices and perspectives. We know that OER offers many benefits to students, but there's still some hesitance among faculty to incorporate OER. Some of this hesitancy comes from fears that OER texts are not high quality, will not ensure students develop critical thinking skills, and will not achieve course outcomes and objectives. Hesitant faculty can be assured this is not the case by looking at what the research tells us. Research shows that faculty and students using OER find it to be high quality. Colvard's study shows that grades are better with OER, and several studies indicate that students and faculty who use OER do view it positively. Nussbaum and Cutler also found that instructors who used OER were rated more positively than the professors that rated more positively than those professors that assigned commercial textbooks, and students were more likely to select courses that had no course costs. According to Giuliani, I don't know if I'm saying that right at all, students assigned the open textbook in either print or digital formats performed either no differently or better on their course exams than students assigned the commercial textbook. Hardin et al. Looked at multiple sections of introductory psychology courses, and I know we have some psychology professors here, taught by trained graduate students at a research-focused graduate school, and found that they were controlling for instructors' individual characteristics. There was a slight increase in content knowledge when using OER as compared to traditional textbooks. They also found that students achieved learning outcomes and objectives using OER, even with novice instructors. Similarly, Hilton synthesized results of 16 studies examining the influence of OER on student outcomes in higher education or college student and instructor perceptions of OER. Hilton found that students using OER did achieve those outcomes and objectives for their courses. So OER textbooks are high quality. They are well perceived by those who use them. They enhance grades, and they do not, I'm tongue-tied, sorry. They do not negatively impact learning outcomes. So all that say how we started at Delta. So we started in 2016 using OpenStax Soc 2E for Soc 211, our Principles of Sociology class, which is our intro. In October 2019, several of the Delta sociology faculty attended this summit when it was housed at Delta College in person before COVID. And our lovely colleagues from Lansing Community College shared the OER they had produced, The Story of Us. And some of us attended that. We were extremely impressed with their work. We went back to the discipline and shared with them. And in the fall of 2019, we formed an OER search committee to evaluate OER options for that course, including the LCC textbook, which we ended up adopting. Then in the summer of 2020, Donna Giuliani, one of our colleagues at Delta, created a press book site for the book because there wasn't an appropriate digital format that our students could read on their phones. And we decided to work on that together, Donna and I. So we began working on our OER that August. One of the great things about using OER is that you can remix the content. This means you do not have to create all of the content from scratch, and you can use your favorite parts of various OER textbooks with proper attributions, of course. This addresses another concern that faculty have raised, the intensive labor that is involved in the creation of OER. But with OER, you can also reorder chapters, cut sections, reorder sections, and so on from books that already exist. So you don't have to create all of the content from scratch. So this is what we did with Local to Global, the Sociological Journey. We started with the LCC textbook. We cut out parts that we did not want to include. Sorry. We reconfigured chapters. We added sections from other OER textbooks, such as the OpenStax book that we had originally started with. In addition to pulling sections from other introductory sociology OER textbooks, we pulled in sections from other OERs. We added a section on intersectionality from the Introduction to Women, Gender, Sexuality Studies OER, which is content that's not always included in intro sociology textbooks, but we wanted to add it to our gender chapter. as our goal is to decolonize our methodologies. Kind of goes in line with what we heard in the keynote. I was excited about that. As Hayes and Mellon stated, this is one of the benefits of OER, the adaptability to add diverse voices. The intersectionality section added important Black thinkers such as Kimberly Crenshaw and Patricia Hill Collins, which are pictured here, to make sure students were aware that they are important Black thinkers. The scholars responsible for such an important theory that's used all over, and a term that's used all over now, we made sure we included these pictures of them. We also pulled in a section from World Regional Geography. We added images of various maps and discussed in the section and added important quotes from geographers that are relevant to global stratification, such as Salvatore Natoli and Seth Dixon. So one of the quotes, in our society, we unconsciously equate size with importance and even power. That's Salvatore Natoli. And then Seth Dixon said, this is one reason why many people have underestimated the true size of Africa relative to places that they view as important or powerful. So we thought it was important to show that Africa is, and you can see Africa over here, it's bigger than most other continents. To that same chapter, we also added a section on Galtung's theory, which we authored ourselves. And that nicely complemented the other theories that are typically used in a global stratification chapter in other textbooks, but brings a slightly different focus from some of the others. In addition to adding sections, we reconfigured and deleted parts of the book. So one reconfiguration we performed was cutting chapter 1 in the LCC OER into 2 chapters in our textbook. We found that the first chapter for our students was too long for a first reading, and we separated the chapters in a manner consistent with most other introductory sociology textbooks. Chapter 1 covers the history of sociology as a discipline, what sociology is, the 3 major theoretical perspectives, and then chapter 2 covers research methods. We also got rid of images that may be offensive. For example, there is an image of an A-OK hand gesture, which used to be okay because the symbol generally represented okay, but it's been co-opted by white supremacists, and now that symbol is used to represent a hate group, so we didn't find that good to have in our book, so we removed that. Some changes were just a matter of our preference. So, for example, we removed the psychological theories in the chapter on socialization and focused on sociological theories because that would confuse students. And we expanded other sections in that chapter on Irving Goffman's dramaturgical approach, who is a sociologist. The ability to mix and match allows faculty producing OER to tailor their book to their needs and their teaching styles, something you can't do with traditionally published textbooks. So one issue we have noticed is that students are sometimes hesitant to believe that racism is a very real issue in society today. Which if you watch the news, you're surprised, maybe, but not all of our students are watching the news. So to help students see the unfortunate reality that racism is still prevalent, we included data and graphics that were not present in the original OER we started with. For example, in our chapter on crime and criminal justice, when discussing differential justice theory, we included 2 visualizations of racial disparities, the ones that you see here. So lifetime likelihood of imprisonment for those born in 2001. You can see that Black men, Latino men are disproportionately represented there. And then this is percentage in prison. So the percentage that each group makes out in the adult population on that first row, the percentage they make up in the population in that year, percentage that each racial group makes up of people that were shot by police between 2015 and 2019, unarmed people shot by police during those years, because some people that are shot are armed, that's a different situation than unarmed. The percentage of police officers in each of the racial groups, state judges and federal judges, just to give students a better understanding. And then of course there's text that goes with that. Another area in the book that we made significant changes to was the chapter on gender and sexuality. The first change we made was changing the name of the chapter from gender and gender inequality to gender, sex, and sexuality. This is because we wish to place more emphasis on the inclusion of LGBTQIA issues. Another change was moving from the acronym LGBT to LGBTQIA, because this is a more inclusive acronym that has gained popularity in current discourse. LGBTQIA includes queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. LGBT acronym. We brought in several sections from OpenStax 2E, replacing some sections such as the sexual orientation part of section 1 of the chapter. We also added a part of OpenStax that discussed non-binary gender groups such as the Verdaches in Native American cultures and the Fa'afafine in Samoan culture. And we added in data from the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economics and Statistics Administration Census Bureau office. Ooh, that's a lot of words. That shows that for the same exact jobs, women make less money than men on average, which is this image you see here. And this was in response to students frequently questioning the existence of the gender pay gap and arguing that it was the result of men and women having different jobs. So as you can see with this graphic, you can see that in the exact same industry, full-time, year-round workers are being paid differently if they're men or women. The LCC textbook had news stories at the beginning of each chapter to show the importance of sociology and current events. We added a new news story for the chapter on gender that deals with the impact of COVID-19 on women in the US. According to the United States Department of Labor in September 2020, federal unemployment statistics showed that 216,000 men and 865,000 women were laid off or left the workforce, often to care for children who were no longer attending school in person. We also included the data from Michigan from February to September. Employment fell by 269,000 or 11.9% for women compared to 26,000 or 1.1% for men. So that helps to make the book more current and more relevant to our students because it's local. We have local information that we're adding, and from MLive, a state news site, and something that was going on when we were producing this book in 2020. Building on the great OER work of our colleagues at other colleges and universities, we also produced new content. We created many graphs after analyzing the most recent data from the General Social Survey. The data sometimes reflected a change in questions on some of the issues, or we used data from another survey, such as the World Values Survey, to add a more global perspective. In these cases, we would have to change the way the example was used, reword it to reflect the new data we included. For example, in the original OER, there's a graph showing the percentage of Americans who believe men are better suited for politics than women over time. In our OER, we replaced it with this graph that you see here, figure 3.3. Data from the World Values Survey showing the percentage of people who believe this now and in select countries, offering multicultural analysis. So you can compare country to country. And then this is figure 3.4 is another example where we showed cross-cultural data. We did significant work on the images, graphs, and diagrams in the textbook. In our attempt to increase equity through our textbook, we ensured that all new images, graphs, diagrams, etc., and all of the existing content are ADA accessible. Some of the graphs were hard to decipher because the hard copies of the book are printed in black and white. We do have the online version that's in color, but because it's printed in black and white, we wanted to address this by adding more contrast and including additional data labels. So you can see the original figure 4, the same information, but figure 5, so that when you're looking at it in black and white, you can make sense of it. Because if you can't see the colors here, or if you're colorblind, you wouldn't be able to tell what each of these are. So yeah, we were thinking about color blindness in that case too. Another diagram that we included that wasn't there in the first book is this Venn diagram of the 3 major theoretical perspectives every introduction to sociology textbook includes: conflict theory, functionalism, and symbolic interactionism. And we did this in response to assessment data we gathered at Delta College, where our students weren't able to compare and contrast the theories. So we decided after our assessment project that we needed to create a visual. So we did this, and hopefully on our next assessment of these theories, we'll see improvements, fingers crossed. Okay, so we also included a theory Snapchat with the main ideas of the major theoretical perspectives. We will assess again in the very near future, and we're looking forward to seeing the impact that has on our students. And we think this really demonstrates another of the beauties of OER. We can be responsive to the needs of our students in a timely fashion. We don't have to wait for a new version of the textbook to come out because we can update it ourselves. As the title of our OER suggests, that local to global, the sociological journey, and I previously alluded to, we added local information to our textbook to make the textbook more relevant to our students. Specifically, we added Michigan-specific data and data specific to the Tri-County area in which our college is located. One example is when we explain social control. Social control is never perfect. Oh, this is a quote from the book. Social control is never perfect, and so many norms and people exist that we all violate some norms. For example, if you speed, you violate a formal norm. But if you don't speed in our home state of Michigan, then there are likely 10 cars angrily lined up behind you because you're violating the informal norm in Michigan that says you have to push the speed limit by 5, maybe even more than that but that's what we have here. Both of these violations of norms, one formal and one informal, and they're deviant. Then there's some other graphs here. You can see where we used Michigan and Tri-County data. So Delta students will see themselves in a Michigan example, and these are norms we are all familiar with, but may not think about them being examples of deviance. The fact that no matter which choice you make in driving, you are violating a norm helps students to understand that deviance is relative and not inherently bad. This small change in the textbook serves multiple purposes. Furthermore, for several years in the American Sociological Association and Michigan Sociological Association, we've been discussing concerns over sociology survival as a discipline. We found it important in our textbook to make it clear to students that studying sociology is beneficial to them regardless of their major. We did this by including a list of skills one gains through the study of sociology, and including the graphic you see here that lists several careers for sociology majors to help demonstrate the value of a sociology major. Students in our course are often surprised in the variety of careers a degree in sociology can prepare them for. As previously mentioned, we are interested in decolonizing our textbook. So we paid special attention to the terms used for racial and ethnic categories. We changed the term African-American throughout the textbook to Black, as a WUSA 9 poll showed that most people surveyed on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter said that they would prefer to be recognized as Black before African-American or a person of color. This is also the term that we had already heard being used mostly in academia, like by Black scholars, but finding that there was poll data helped to confirm that that was a change we wanted to make in the book. The most common reason for embracing the Black identity is because some felt it was more inclusive of the Black experience in America, regardless of origin, according to Greg Carr, associate professor and the chair of Howard University's Department of Afro-American Studies. Black is a term that was used as a sense of pride and empowerment during the Black power movement in the 1960s and 70s. We also added in the gender sections on cultures that do not have binary gender systems, as mentioned earlier. And in future textbooks, we intend to keep up with new terms, being cognizant of preferred terms for marginalized groups, and to include more BIPOC and LGBTQIA thinkers. We also plan to include more on disability and work towards a truly intersectional textbook in the very near future. Another of the beauties of OER is that you can update just before it's published. So our OER was published and made available for purchase as a hard copy online in December 2020 with Lulu Press. Students who purchase a hard copy pay only the cost of printing plus shipping, which is under $30. Our bookstore is also able to order print copies from Lulu to offer a hard copy in the bookstore. All Delta College sociology faculty teaching Soc 211W are now using this Sociological Journey textbook. And they will continue to do so until we create the next edition. Because we were able to publish so close to the date we needed the book, so we needed the book for the January semester, we were able to publish it in December and include data from the 2020 election and emerging data on COVID-19. As you see, this is one of the images that we included in the textbook that's, licensed under Creative Commons, so you can use it in your stuff. Our colleagues at Southwestern Illinois College have also adopted our OER as a discipline for their introductory course in sociology. OER offers a wonderful opportunity to collaborate across the college and across colleges. So Jean Ramirez at LCC was generous enough to share her OER ancillaries with Delta. And as we edited our textbook, I edited ancillaries and created new test banks in a sandbox course in our learning management system, e-learning or D2L. All sociology instructors at Delta were added as instructors to the course so that we can all contribute to the creation of ancillaries, and we can easily copy them over to our own courses. The sandbox is organized by chapter, which I have a little screenshot there. And each chapter has like textbook, and then we can also like add assignments if we want to share them and things like that. So other faculty have created new quiz questions, video lectures, etc., and share them in this course shell. So super cool, and anyone can just copy it right over to their own class. Since implementing OER in SOC 211 in the fall of 2016, we have saved students $383,100 through the fall of 2021. It's higher now, but that's the last number I got from our librarian. In addition to using OER for our SOC 211W courses, we use OER for SOC 212, which is social problems, and SOC 221, sociology of family. Since implementing OER for these two courses beginning in winter 2019, we have saved students $24,800. In total, our use of OER at Delta College has saved sociology students, and this is as of fall. When did I say? Winter 2019, sorry. We had saved students $407,900 overall in textbooks for sociology classes. Our librarian, Michelle Pratt, collected data from 284 students at Delta College enrolled in courses with an OER textbook. And when students were asked to imagine a future course they are required to take, if two different sections were offered by the same instructor during equally desirable time slots, but one section used free text, like those used in this course, and the other used a traditional published text, which section would you prefer to enroll in? You can enroll in. You can guess what they said. More than half said they would choose the section using OER. So, moving forward, we plan to keep our data and examples current and relevant in our book. We can change just little sections at a time. We also plan to create a free audio version of the textbook in a podcast format. An audio format will make the textbook more enjoyable and more accessible for students with visual impairments. And the audio format is also beneficial for students with ADHD, as listening to audio while reading the text helps one to remain focused. In future editions, we also intend to keep focusing on further decolonization of knowledge in our book by adding more voices of BIPOC and LGBT, as I mentioned. And the audiobook will make it easier for students who are struggling with time, as many community college students are. An audio version enables them to listen to the book while they're on the go. And if we record each section as a podcast, then when we update the book, we're not going to update the entire book at once, right? So we can just take whatever section we're updating and re-record that. So it won't be super labor intensive to, make the updates each time we need to do them. So we are super excited to see what the future for OER holds for our students. We are so excited that we've been able to save them money. I personally just started working on a OER for our social problems class, taking another one and cutting out stuff and all that fun stuff. So I'm super duper excited to see where that goes, and hopefully we'll have it done for the spring semester when I teach the class again. So that is the end of me talking at you. And now I would love to hear your questions and comments and all that good stuff.
Great, Christina. There's one question in the chat about the recording. I don't know if you would like to unmute and ask that, or I can read it for you. Go back up here. Okay, I will read it. It said they would like to know more about recording the audio version of the book. Are you going to record it yourself?
Okay, so I am going to ask people to participate. Some people have already demonstrated an interest in helping. If you want to help, you can too. You take turns reading different sections. That way we can have different voices to keep people awake while they're reading. And it's a lot of work for one person. So that is the plan there. And
yeah, the next question is also about that. Like, so you say podcast format, how would that take shape? Maybe like how, explain more about the podcast idea.
So I'm still still figuring that out. There are two history professors at Delta that do their own podcast. So I was going to get help from them. And that's like, we're early on that. I don't have all the details figured out yet. And I didn't put the slides online, but I can. I think, can I just send them? I think I can just send them.
Yeah, so you can upload it into Sketch if you go into the Sketch and hit your own presentation, and it'll just say upload. And so you can do them there that way.
Also, I can email them to you, Maureen.
Thanks, Christina. I was going to say that the psychology faculty at Delta would also like to have an audio version of our OpenStax Psychology 2E textbook. So since you're already started on that, I'll ask you to share your lessons learned and your experience with us.
Absolutely.
And then if anyone else in this meeting knows of an audio version of that OpenStax textbook, I would love to learn about that, because that's one thing I lost transitioning from a commercial textbook to an OpenStax textbook, was that recorded audio version that students had told me they enjoyed using and helped them learn. If they have a screen reader, they can have a screen reader read the PDF of the textbook, but it's usually not the same.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So ours is set up so a screen reader can read it right now, but it's just not that bad. Okay, Katie says they're not that bad. Maybe you can tell us which one's better. Then maybe some of the ones that we've heard. That would be helpful. And MS Edge, okay. She said a Microsoft Edge, there's a tool. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I was told by students a number of years ago, not related to OER, that they would use screen readers for books when they were driving, because if they had a long commute. And I thought, well, that's brilliant, so they were figuring ways to do it even for those that didn't have it.
That's great. Can anyone access the Delta College Soc OER textbook? Yes, you sure can. Let me see, I will put a link in here to the book. Let's see. Okay, I put a link to the online version of the book in the chat. Other people have things?
I wanted to say I'm really glad to hear that you updated the section on gender and sexuality. That's an area that I felt like the OpenStax Psychology OER textbook was lacking. And so I'm going to check out the content you guys have already created, and maybe I can just adopt that for psychology or work with it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I loved in putting together this, is we could take the stuff we like from different areas and add our own stuff. And Donnie's here. He's a guru in OER as well. Or he was here. Is he gone now? Maybe he's gone now. Do you have an estimate about how much additional labor was involved in Remix? We did it all from August to December. Like, we completed it in one semester while teaching full loads, both of us. So I don't know exactly how much time, but we did do it all in one semester.
But you really should receive some form of compensation for that additional work.
Yeah, and then I got together what I could for ancillaries over that winter break, which was not adequate. And then over the next semester, we did more to build those and make them better. And I don't know exactly how much time, but my kids will tell you that I probably did spend a lot of time doing it. They're like, you're always working on that book. But it was a few months and then it's done. Yeah, I think so. Katie said it seems like any faculty choosing to use your book should pay it forward by creating and sharing some ancillaries. I think so too, and I'm willing to share mine with other colleges that are using the book. I talked to another person in Facebook. There's a teaching sociology group where we share resources. So I'm sure there's other better ways to do it too, but I don't know for other disciplines, but I imagine you have teaching psychology, you're teaching English, you're teaching political science groups that you can be a part of that would share information like we do. We share class activities and assignments and things too. Because OER makes our lives easier too. I mean, you have that little bit of time you're working on the book, but then you have this great resource for your students that just makes teaching better and more exciting. Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything? So quiet.
I can ask another question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like you've talked a lot about good kind of collaborations. Have you had any issues with reaching out to people and having them say, oh no OERs, no, I'm not doing that? Like,
I mean, I've heard faculty in other disciplines at the college that were not comfortable with OER for the reasons that we talked about, like being concerned that it's a lot of labor, being concerned that maybe it's not the best quality, although we have research that shows that to not be true. I even had a psychology, someone from Maureen's group at Delta offer to help with the audio version already. So we've been fortunate. Thank you, Tom. So are we allowed to finish early, Julia, if nobody's asking?
Sure, if we want to wrap it up. I guess I had a quick question for that. So I guess, and one of the things that we find is that faculty teaching those big courses like psychology and sociology are using the adaptive learning pieces that come with their textbooks. So you didn't have faculty using those that they were saying, oh, I can't get rid of the textbook because I need these other packages.
People were worried about the ancillaries, but I told them I would do it. So they were okay with it. But I said,
But they weren't using like that. The adaptive pieces were like turning in their homework and all of those kind of components that went with that. They weren't using those from the publisher.
Well, we actually created like shared homework assignments that other people can use. We created all kinds of fun stuff. We created discussion boards that people could use if they wanted to go with things.
Nice.
So
A lot of work.
Yeah, we did that extra stuff.
I was going to say, I was using a interactive e-text that was a commercial text that had not adaptive quizzing, but quizzes embedded in the chapter and other assignments that I could make a part of the course. And so that was hard for me to give that up. And then I had to create my own quizzes and separate assignments. But I worked with other people in my discipline and we're really collaborative group. And so I think the savings for students and hopefully the experience for students will be worth it.
Yeah.
And so did you guys adapt open stacks or did you write your own kind of like what Christina did where you took a few?
Most of the psychology faculty are using the OpenStax textbook.
And we started, and there's a new version of OpenStax that's better than the one we had when we did it. But yeah, when we first started using it, and honestly, I was not one of the people that was like, woohoo, let's switch to OER. I was like, ooh, I have to use that at another school I'm teaching at too, and I don't like it. But they were like, as a sociologist, we should care about poverty and saving money for our, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so right. So then I was on board. But yeah. And I could show you guys while we're here. The things that we did in here. Okay, let me do. Just pull this up real quick. Ooh, okay. So we produced this course shell as part of the CARES Act thing last spring and updated what we had from the original OER site we made. So we have like a sample welcome message. Let me go over here to content. Set it up so there are instructions for any instructor that's using it, explaining how to use it. Then we have, explaining everything we have here. And we have the chapter modules, which are broken into 3 submodules: textbook materials, which includes a link to that chapter in the ebook, a list of key concepts for the chapter, a PowerPoint. Then we have videos that are open source videos that people can assign. Then we have assignments, like a writing assignment that students could do, a quiz, an example of a discussion board. So if I go up here to quizzes, we made quizzes for every chapter. If we go under discussions, we have several, things that people could copy or take what they want, mix it, just like you would with any other OER, to make it your own for your students. We have all kinds of examples of assignments for each of the chapters and projects. So we added all kinds of, let's see if I do like.
So this is your course management system and you just set up a shell, like you said?
Yeah,
Kind of? What system is it? It's so nice. It looks so clean.
It's D2L, Desire to Learn.
Oh, okay. It's just so streamlined and clean looking. I like it.
Assignments like that anybody can use and just copy over to their, and it's really easy to copy. We just edit course and go to import, export, and copy whatever items you want. I always think it's nice too. I think it's very user friendly.
And I've really enjoyed being able to link directly to certain sections of the textbook in my course site.
Yeah,
since the textbook is a website, you can, include that web link in your assignments. And instead of just telling students what section to read in their textbook, they can just click on it and it opens up right there on their laptop or on their phone.
Yep, and we did that too. So,
well, that leaves it, if you change it, they can just link to the updated version, right? Like it's going to be updated. That's really nice.
Yeah. And then, we also tied in, like we have a little intro and the outcomes and objectives from the course that go with that chapter. So lots of fun stuff.
When I was using the commercial textbook, students had to pay extra to get the access code for it. And then they had to log in too. So I couldn't link to specific sections in the chapter because it's behind a login. And with the OER, it's open. So I've enjoyed that.
Yes.
And it'll be available to them after they take the course too.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? A free textbook that stays with you and you can refer back to it anytime. That's awesome.
Well, both of those courses are big general ed courses, so you guys are hitting a lot of students. That's great. Yeah. Good job. Nice presentation.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. If we have no more questions, we can wrap it up and give you extra minutes. And if you have trouble uploading your slides, you can just email and respond to Katie, who sent you, the links and stuff, and she'll do it for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. All right, take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.